Welcome back to another edition of Six Borough Sports, your home for New York and South Florida sports. Before I get started, I just want to remind everyone to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to continue to release one video a week, and hopefully soon we'll bump it up to two. But we got a ton of NFL news, some good, some bad regarding the Giants. All bad, pretty much, for the Dolphins. And the Jets stayed pretty quiet, but there is a potential move coming up for them that could really help their position. And then we're going to finish up with some basketball. The Heat. I was about to hype them up for the playoffs, and then they went on a three-game losing streak and lost to the Wizards, which is pretty bad. And tomorrow they're playing Denver. But we'll get into that. And then also FAU basketball is gonna is getting ready for the tournament, so we'll get into that. But the biggest news, is Saquon leaving the Giants to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is really unfortunate. I really wanted him to go to the Texans. I thought the Texans would have been a better fit. I think they have a better chance to win on the Texans, just because the Texans, they don't have to pay their quarterback right now because they have a rookie, and they played really well last year. Um, and he wouldn't play the Giants twice a year. It sucks. I understand why he did it, but as Tiki Barber said, "You're dead to me." Um, I don't know why this is being all blown out of proportion. Like they're like, "Oh no," like they're being mean or whatever. Like, no, this is a real rivalry. This isn't some, you know, Arizona Cardinals, LA Rams rivalry. This is the Eagles and the Giants. This is real dislike for each other. Um, so that really sucked. But the Giants did manage to get, and I called this one of my first spot on predictions, that Saquon would leave and the Giants would get Devin Singletary, FAU alum. Um, it just made sense because he played with Dayball and Joe Shane and the Bills, and he's really cheap. I think it was like 4 mil as opposed to 12 mil that Saquon is getting. So that was a really good deal for the Giants, I think. He's productive, but you don't need him to do everything, and I think they can probably run like a nice two-back set. Um, so that's exciting. Uh, the I also like the other pickup of Brian Burns from the Panthers, pass rusher. I mean, the defensive line is looking really good now. They they have Burns, they have Okereke, I think that's how you pronounce it. They got Isaiah Simmons, and they also have Kayvon Thibodeau. So I know they have a new defensive coordinator, but that's a pretty impressive and scary defensive line, and that's how the Giants win. They have a great defensive line, so I like that move. It helps the Giants a lot more than anything that Saquon would have done. Um, they still need to fix the quarterback situation. I'm hoping that they draft one, like I said, like I've been saying. Maybe in the first round, maybe in the second, but not after that. You're not going to get the next Brock Purdy, but they should develop him, and they let him sit and develop. I'm leaning towards they're going to go for the guy from Michigan, um, but we'll see what happens. Draft day is weird, and a lot of unexpected trades happen. That's why I never liked like mock drafts. It's like kind of a waste of time. It's better to just say these are the team's needs and these are the players that might be available at that spot. Because mock drafts at the end of the day are a waste of time. There's always a trade. There's always some shenanigans. There's always some movement. There's always some team reaching, and you know you can make educated guesses based on their spot, but at the end of the day, it's a waste of time. It's also like when they do, speaking of March Madness, when they put out like brackets in like January, like, oh, these are the projected brackets. I'm like, this is a waste of time. Oh, yeah, we might play TCU in the first round. Ooh, it doesn't make any sense. It's just a giant waste of time. And I don't like it. The power rankings make a little more sense. Like power rankings, those kind of things that can be debatable. You got two teams at the same record, and they're this team had a harder schedule, so they should be the better team or rank the better team. But to me, like stuff like that, like the brackets and the mock drafts, always drove me a little nuts. I never, I never liked that because they they change like instantly, um, and they're guaranteed not to be what you predicted. So that's another reason why I don't like them. Um, Also, Xavier McKinney went to the Packers, which makes sense. There are a lot of like safeties and corners that are available that you're going to be able to get for dirt cheap, like Jamal Adams.
Washington. Jamal Adams. I'm the best in the nation.
He's a free agent. There was some rumor he might go to the Jets, could go to the Giants to replace Xavier McKinney. Um, but we'll see what happens with that. Uh, the Jets, the main thing the Jets can do. Well, they picked up Tyrod Taylor, so now they have a competent backup. Who he gets injured though. He got injured last year. He didn't play a full season, so questionable. And also Gardner Minshew was floating around. I don't know. I think Gardner Minshew and Aaron Rodgers in the same locker room would have been fun. He was picked up by the Raiders, which I think was a great pickup. Um, and then uh, the Packers released David Bakhtiari, who might reunite with Rodgers, but again, he's another injury-prone guy, so that might be an issue down the road. But the Jets are all in right now. And then finally, the Dolphins, they are they're hemorrhaging players right now. They picked up Jonnu Smith, which is okay. They needed a tight end. Um, but they lost Wilkins. They lost Xavier Howard. They lost one of their offensive linemen to the Panthers. They are in they're in a bad cap situation, and they still have to pay Tua. Um, so they were kind of all in last year, and it didn't work out, which is really unfortunate for them. So McDaniel's is going to have his work cut out for him next year. I think the Patriots might be better just under a new coach and more of a direction. And Mac Jones is out of there. He went to Jacksonville, and he's from Jacksonville. I had no idea. I learned that, and it should be um, interesting to see how the Dolphins navigate this season because it's not gonna be easy. If Rodgers is healthy, the Jets are automatically better. The Patriots, I feel like, are going to get better. The Bills might be worse, but they still have the best quarterback in the division. Um, and they still have like a lot of their core. They did lose Gabe Davis, um, and he went to Jacksonville as well. So it's going to be interesting. There was also, and I heard this from another YouTube channel called Football Analysis, and he was talking about the Dolphins, like some of their defensive injuries, like Javon Holland and stuff. They won't be back for the beginning of the season. They might miss a few weeks. So, and he was saying, if they get off to a slow start, they might not catch up, which is true. But he didn't mention this, and this is a thing about the Dolphins early on in the season that people they're starting to figure it out. But the Dolphins at the beginning of the season have a huge home field advantage because it's still really hot out down here. And we saw that last year. That was the 70-point game. It was down here. It was like 90 degrees out and humid and not pleasant in the sun. And the Dolphins are going to make you play in the sun for those noon games. So early on in the season, just remember that the any game in Miami, it's going to be very hot. It's still technically summertime, but So that they're going to have that distinct home. That's probably the best home field advantage, like in terms of I think actual impact on the game. It's not the best in terms of cold weather because the cold weather really affects teams during the playoffs, and the Dolphins lose that warm weather advantage in the playoffs because then in January it's beautiful down here. So um, that's going to be a thing that'll bounce in the Dolphins' favor that they can get healthy when their schedule toughens up. But again, um, they're gonna have a rough year, I think. Um, but we'll see what happens. Another amazing thing about this free agency is the running backs. They're moving all over the place. We got Eckler to the Commanders, Aaron Jones to the Vikings, Josh Jacobs to the Packers, Derrick Henry to the Ravens, Tony Pollard to the Titans, Saquon to the Eagles, Devin Singletary to the Giants. It goes on and on and on. There's so many running backs because they're just switching teams. Mixon went to the Texans. Um, they're just all over the place. I don't think I've ever seen this. It's just that one position where all the teams are just switching guys. It's very weird. But yeah, a lot of running back movement. But I think that goes to show, and I think it's like the safeties and the secondary players. It's like, what are teams valuing? And I think right now they're valuing running. They're not valuing running backs. They're valuing edge rushers, quarterbacks, and wide receivers, and that's it. Safeties and corners and running backs they are not valuing. And so they don't have stable job security when the cap issues come, they're the first to go. Um, so we'll see what happens. Although I will say with the running back thing, people say, "Oh, running backs aren't that valuable." One of the most important players, and probably would have won Super Bowl MVP if the Niners won, and they should have if they didn't make those any mistakes. Is Christian McCaffrey, but whatever. Um, I am interested to see Derrick Henry with the Ravens if he can play up to his regular form, how much they can run the ball, because that was one of the things they didn't do against the Chiefs, and I think that would have helped them beat the Chiefs if they kept running the ball. Um, so we'll see what happens. It's going to be weird seeing all these running backs on different teams and stuff. And that was another thing I liked. It's like Saquon goes to the Eagles, which is like the ultimate betrayal, and then Aaron Jones goes to the Vikings, which is another like betrayal in itself there. And I also want to see Russell Wilson on the Steelers. I think that's going to be interesting, just because the Steelers don't need a ton of offense to win games. They did it last year. Um, with that, the offense just like kind of trudged through the season, and they still made the playoffs. Um, yeah, but they were first round exit. They were you know, one of those teams that like didn't really belong in the playoffs, so they just kind of made it. Um, they got up to Buffalo, and they gave the Bills a hard time. The Bills play down to their competition a lot sometimes. Um, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. A lot of faces in new places. So we'll see what happens there. As for the Miami Heat, I was getting ready to like hype them up. They're going to catch up to the Knicks. They're going to catch up to Cleveland. They're going to improve their seeding, and they go and lose three straight. They lost to two Western teams. I think it was the Mavericks and the Thunder, and I was like, okay, they're good. They're pretty good teams. That's okay. And then they lost to the Wizards. I'm like, you can't lose to the Wizards when you're trying to catch people. Sorry, you can't lose to the Wizards. So that stinks. They play in Denver tomorrow, and Denver has their number. And then they have a home and away against Detroit. So they should hopefully do better there. Um, the Knicks are they're starting to get healthy again. So I think the seeding isn't going to change much. Another team that's giving Miami a hard time in the standings is Orlando. Orlando's been playing pretty well. Um, they're finally all those draft picks are finally paying off. Um, So we'll see what happens with that. And the Nets are like they shut down Ben Simmons. Like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna I don't in editing I'll have the chart of all the games that he missed, and it's like it's bad. It's really bad. Being unavailable is just not a recipe for success in any sport, really. It's more costly than doing a bad signing. You know, like people said, oh, the Russell Wilson trade, that was the worst trade ever. And it's like, no, it's the Deshaun Watson trade. Not only because Deshaun Watson is a terrible person, um, assuming he did all the stuff that he did, but and based on all the stuff surrounding it, I think he did. But the Brown, he doesn't play. Russell Wilson plays. He played almost every game, or was available at least for almost every game with the Broncos. So, and he didn't even play that bad last year. It's just, I think Sean Payton wanted him out of there. Um, so we'll see. The NBA postseason, I'm not really looking forward to. It looks like it's like shaping up to be like Boston and Denver, or Milwaukee and Denver, and it's just like, ugh, I don't want to watch this. I really don't. It's not fun. Um, and I think the NFL season is going to be like that with between the Giants and Dolphins. The Jets might be good, but I don't root for the Jets. I just, follow what they do. Um, but we'll see what happens with that. And then finally, FAU getting they finish up the season strong against Memphis, 92-84. That was a good win. They're in there. The American Athletic Conference tournament starting on Friday. They're the second seed to USF, who had a surprise, really good year. They actually beat FAU earlier, so that'll be interesting if they could get revenge and work their way to an automatic bid. But I'm pretty sure that they are in, regardless of the results of this tournament. They got like an at-large bid. I'm pretty sure. Um, I saw we just talked about the waste of time exercise of doing mock brackets, but the um, the mock bracket had FAU lining up to face TCU. Um, so we'll see what happens. Um, but again, like the other week, it was like Michigan State, so it doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, uh, good win there. Also, shout out to Janelle Davis, winning American Athletic Conference Player of the Year, and a few other FAU players won first and second team AAC conference players. Um, they had another great year, regardless of what happens in the um, the conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. FAU should be proud, and hopefully they can keep Dusty May another year. And it's going to be tricky. And you don't know what's going to happen. I'm a little worried that they you know because Miami had such a bad year in basketball. Larinaga could step away, and then Miami could be like, "Hey, Dusty, do you want to coach Miami and the ACC?" Yeah, I don't know. You don't even really have to move that far. Um, but we'll see what happens. I'm just going to enjoy the rest of this season, and they got two tournaments to play in, so we'll see what happens there. Um, and that's it for this week. Next week, probably going to talk about more NFL movement. We're getting closer and closer to the NFL draft and NBA playoffs, and March Madness is going to be starting up soon. So got a good few weeks coming up. But yeah, I'm gonna again shoot for the weekend. I had a busy weekend, couldn't get it done, but I'm getting it done now. So please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you then. Bye.